Welcome to Olive MyRecipes. My name is Olivia, and today we're going to do a full steak dinner. We're going to have grilled steak, asparagus, onions, and baked Cajun-style potatoes. So what we're going to do is start with an old-fashioned, which is typically done with whiskey or bourbon, and you just get your sugar cubes in there, put a little bitters on top, let them soak for a little bit, and then use your muddler and mash them up a little bit. That way they're easily dissolved into the whiskey itself. Now I'm using Pendleton, and then you just pour a little bit over your muddler to get the sugar off the end there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stir in the sugar with the whiskey, in my case, and you're just going to do that until you don't see any more sugar granules in there. Pop your ice cubes in, and then you're going to want to cut off some of the orange peel. And you're going to want a few of these just in case you mess up on the first one or first couple. And you want to avoid getting as much meat from the orange as you can. Now, what I'm trying to do here is get a good grip, because you're going to want to do that when you take your lighter to it. Now, the reason why you use the lighter is to release some of the oils in the peel itself. And then you go ahead, and what you're going to do is squeeze the peel, and that's going to get some of the oils and some of the zesty juices into the drink itself. Then you pop your little maraschino cherry in, and you have an old-fashioned. So now what I'm going to do is get these fingerling potatoes. I'm going to put them into a strainer, and I'm just going to rinse them off really quick. And once they're rinsed off, go ahead and just start cutting them down the center. You want to do it lengthwise, just because it looks more presentable. And once you get them all kind of cut up, you're throwing them directly into the pan that's going into the oven. In my case, I'm using a cast iron. You can use a baking pan just as fine. And once they're all in the pan, I advise using a little olive oil, and then I use Tony's Cajun seasoning. And so you can go ahead and use whatever Cajun seasoning you prefer, or even if you like to make your own mix, go for it. And then what you're going to do is mix it all up before you get it in the oven. Now you're going to want your oven on 350 to 400, depending on how your oven works. And that's going to be in there for about 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, now I'm starting on the asparagus. Now, what I normally do is keep it in the fridge in some kind of container with a little water at the bottom, so they stay looking fresh. And once you get them all laid out on the cutting board, you're going to want to cut off a little bit of the ends that mainly look kind of whiter than the rest of it, because that's kind of more of the more fibrous, stronger part of it. And then what I like to do is toss it in a little olive oil as well. And then, as you can see, I have the salt and pepper sitting out. So I would say salt and pepper it to your liking. You don't really need much, but once you get your salt and pepper on there, what you're going to do is go ahead and just toss it up together, and then you're pretty much good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same bowl that I used for the asparagus with the oil and salt and pepper still kind of in it, because you can just reuse that on your steak. What you're going to do is just pop your steak in there to get whatever's left over, the remnants from the bowl, and then add some more oil and salt and pepper as needed. And what you saw earlier was just me patting down the steaks just to get some of the blood off of them. But I would say you don't need much salt and pepper, but again, it's to your liking. If you like it really salty, go ahead. If you don't think it needs salt, no need to add it. Just, if you like pepper more, you put that in. Either way, season how you like, but I highly advise utilizing as much of the product as you have, and just using what's left over in the bowl from the asparagus. And then you can add whatever extra seasonings you might want, like maybe garlic powder or onion powder as well. Okay, now all I'm gonna do is just grill up the asparagus and the onion. Now I advise doing these first, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna release some of their, from the onions, it's gonna release some water, and also it's really good at releasing some of that oil that's on it. Same for the asparagus. This seasons your cast iron grill, in my case, very well. If you're using just a regular grill though, it does almost the same thing. It just kind of adds that little bit of oil to the grates and makes it a little bit easier for the steaks so they don't get kind of stuck to them. It's always good to have that little bit of lubrication just to get things kind of going. But basically with the onions, they are going to take longer than the asparagus and the steaks. And what I basically did is I just got grill marks on one side, and I like to use the other side to oil down the cast iron grill, just kind of in between things. And that's why I did that before I put the steaks on. And yeah, then you put your steaks on. Now what you're going to do is, if you like it mid-rare, like myself, go ahead and let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes on one side, and then you're going to flip it, keeping to that same side, but you're going to flip it in a direction that's opposite what it was, so you get that the grill marks on it. So let's say it was like 40 degrees to the right, well, you're going to move it 40 degrees to the left, basically. And it's probably a really bad example. I'm not the greatest at angles without looking at it and actually giving you exact measurements, but that's basically what I'm getting at. And then once you have it on one side, you do that to the other. In total, it's about 4 to 5, 6 minutes max, depending on what heat you have the grill on each side of the steak. And then what I'm doing here is I have it on a non-stick pan just to kind of get the edges kind of crispy. And what I'm looking for is that almost golden brown, kind of just the fat looking like it's a little bit rendered and has a little crispiness on the outside. That lovely mouth-watering golden brown cap on it. And I like to work it all the way around. Now, you don't have to do this, but I do it for presentation wise. And what I have the pan on is actually on high, so it's not taking very long to do it. And what you're going to want to do though is, once you get your steaks to this point, is you're going to want to have a pan to rest them on, because they are going to want to rest, and you don't want to ever press on your steaks. If you press on the steaks, that gets rid of juices. So you're just going to want to pick them up ever so slightly when you're moving them around. Now, you also want to wait for the markings to get kind of brown, because that's when it kind of releases from the pan as well and it's ready to go. You never want to do it too early, and that way it doesn't get stuck and you're not trying to scrape it off of a grill or pan in that case. Now, I like to let mine sit. As you can see, I have one that was done a little bit sooner. That's the one I wanted a little bit bloodier for my preference. And then this other one is for the guests that I have over. Now, they like theirs a little bit more medium, so I'm giving them a little bit more time and then letting it rest. And here are the end results. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love any comments or suggestions. Go ahead and just put it down below, or you can shoot me a question in there as well, or even on Facebook. There is a Facebook page for this, and more social media to come. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the little notification bell down below so you can get regular updates, and I'll be happy to bring you more videos in the future.